Hi guys, this PowerPoint is on ecosystem values. So when we think about ecosystems, we need to understand that ecosystems have their own intrinsic value, and that's independent from the needs and desires of us humans. When we think about what we want from an ecosystem, a lot of times it starts with profit. We are a money-driven, reward-driven kind of species. And as you see in the meme in the bottom right corner, it kind of jokes about, hey, I need you to get as much money out of this ecosystem as possible. And therein lies the issue of, do we have a moral obligation to protect these ecosystems? And oftentimes that obligation is related to religion and or our philosophy, how we think about the world around us and the ecosystems around us. And that's, again, one of the reasons why environmental science is such an amazing course, is because it's not just about science. We start pulling in more than just science. We start pulling in ethics and religion and philosophy and economics. All these different areas of information come into this one course. So if you look at your note sheet for this, on the right-hand side next to the diagram, that's where you could write down in terms of what humans value. The next part of your note sheet is going to be where your following notes go under type of service in the first column. So you have a 4-column data table there. All of these are going to go within the first column. So instrumental. Okay, instrumental, it has a worth in terms of goods and services. And instrumental is where you're going, what you're going to write down in your right-hand side data table, where it says CRISP, C-R-I-S-P. The P in CRISP is provisioning services, goods that humans use directly, such as lumber. When we cut down trees, we're going to get firewood or we get lumber. Food crops, you can see in the upper right-hand corner, we have fruits and vegetables. Well, maybe not any vegetables in that picture, but you get what I'm saying. Rubber, in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see a tree. We're collecting that sap for rubber. We can also do that with maple syrup and pour it on pancakes. Fur in the middle. I have a little bit of exotic-looking fur there. And then medicinal plants as well. And then I also included honeybees. The second part is regulating services, and this is so important to us. Think about what we just did in Unit 1, those biogeochemical cycles, the carbon cycle, the phosphorus cycle, the nitrogen cycle, and the water cycle. This is what is going to be cycling the nutrients that we as humans need. Carbon, what removes the carbon from the air? The plants. Through what process? Photosynthesis. As they remove that carbon, they produce oxygen. We breathe in the oxygen, and through the process of respiration, we exhale carbon dioxide. Now, as you guys learned in Unit 1, we're also increasing our carbon dioxide output by burning the fossil fuels that have been buried underground for millions upon millions of years. If we think about the nitrogen cycle, all of those decomposers and nitrogen-fixing bacteria, all of those are taking nitrogen from the air. Remember, 78% of the air is nitrogen. It's able to take that atmospheric nitrogen and turn it into a form that plants can use, and therefore we can use. Because don't forget, nitrogen is in our DNA. Support services. So these are like pollination, bees that pollinate. Can you imagine if we don't have any bees? And this is something that could actually come to fruition within our lifetime, the collapse of the bee colonies throughout the world. But without bees, no crops would happen. We would have a little bit of pollination just due to wind, but those bees are very specific in terms of carrying that pollen from plant to plant. Now you can think about those orchid plants. Orchid plants do they have to be hand pollinated. However, we're not going to hand pollinate a whole field of corn, for instance. Water filtration, that bottom picture, streams naturally help filtrate water. Or if you've ever gotten to go to Costa Rica and you stay at one of their eco lodges, whenever you flush that toilet, It's not going to a septic system. It's not going to a water treatment plant. No, oftentimes they have these lily pad ponds where they have all these filtering water plants, and they're going to take all of your waste and filter it into a form that's clean enough to eventually be returned into the system. No, you're not drinking it. I'm just saying that it's filtering it. And then finally, natural pest control. If I'm a farmer and I don't want to spend the money on chemicals and pesticides and whatnot, I could, if I have a tomato plant and I have an aphid infestation, I could always go and buy some ladybugs. And those ladybugs are a natural predator of the aphids. They're going to go eat the aphids, and I don't have to worry about any chemicals on my tomatoes. And the last part, the C in CRISP, is going to be our cultural services. That's where we look at our ecosystem, and it has that aesthetic value, that beauty. And it's not just the land, it's also the animals as well. And from that, we find tourism and real estate and recreation. So let's go to real estate. Think about here where we live. Those oceanfront houses that sell for millions of dollars. Okay? That right there is because of that aesthetic value of living so close to the beach. Tourism and recreation. You can think about Montana. Why would you go visit Montana? To go see the mountains. Maybe you're going to go whitewater river rafting. Any of that falls within our cultural services aspect. All right. Now, if you have that note sheet in front of you, you're going to go to column 2, and you're going to think about the anthropogenic effects on each of these services. Hopefully, you have already defined anthropogenic, and you know exactly what that means. Once you define that, you're going to look at columns 3 and 4 and figure out what the economic and ecological effect is from that anthropogenic action on that service. Now, don't forget that sometimes you're going to find the same thing. Okay? But let's give you just a quick example before I finish this PowerPoint. Say I'm a farmer and I bought some land, 10 acres, and I want to grow corn. What do I have to do to that land? Let me back it up real quick. What do I have to do in order to grow this corn for a provisioning service on my land? Wouldn't I have to clear the land to make it ready for crops? I definitely would. So I'm affecting the provisioning services by being a farmer and providing crops. Okay. Then, if we want to take that a step further, by being that farmer that's going to grow corn, I'm going to be affecting the nitrogen cycle and the phosphorus cycle, because my corn plants are going to be sucking up nitrogen and phosphorus from the ground. But then how does it go back into the ground if I have affected that ecosystem? All right, that's all for now. Thanks, guys.